know it. You tell the story. You tell the whole damn world this is bear territory.
All right, let's go, Coach. Love it. Let's go. It's April 7th, 2025, and guess what? It's another great day to be a bear. Welcome to Tell the Whole Damn World, the podcast for Golden Bear fans. If you're like us and are unabashedly and unapologetically all about Cal, then you found the right place. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Reza Serafinejad, and as I always like to say, if you're associated with the University of California, you're one of the luckiest people on this planet. Never forget that. Before we kick things off, I have a small favor to ask. We need your help to grow this podcast. If you're enjoying what we're doing, please hit the like button, subscribe, and tell all your Cal friends about it. We're updating our website each week with our most recent episode. So if you just tell your friends to go to tellthewholedamnworld.com, it will be super easy for them to stream the latest episode on YouTube. We couldn't thank you more for your help and support. First off, we realize we've been promising you our interview with Ron and Stephanie Rivera, and it is going to happen, but we can be sticklers when it comes to production. And the idea always has been to have both of them on the show together with one another. With Stephanie still on the East Coast, we've decided to delay that interview until they're together. It's just not going to play as well if the camera flips back and forth between Ron and Stephanie in two different locations. The interview is all about the two of them together as a team and learning what makes them so passionate about Cal. So rest assured it's happening soon, and we'll broadcast it far and wide when it's released. But let me tell you, our featured guest this week is absolutely spectacular. If I told you he had been honored as the NCAA National Coach of the Year one time, that would be pretty special. If I told you he had won it 2 times, that would be incredible. 3 times? You'd think the university would build a statue for him. Now, how about if I told you he had won that award 7 times? Dave Durden has to be considered one of the greatest coaches in the history of swimming, and we couldn't be happier to welcome him to the show. He joins us fresh off a runner-up finish in the NCAA Championships and shares a lot of great stories with me and Ahmad. And of course, we'll also have a wonderful discussion with our resident Cal history expert, Leslie Mitchell. This week, we talk all about Gregory Peck, the Golden Bear turned Oscar Award winner who brought Atticus Finch to life in To Kill a Mockingbird. But first, let's get you up to speed on some Cal sports news. The Cal varsity rugby team easily dispatched Colorado State 76-7 in the first round of the national championship playoffs. The Golden Bears will face Arizona at home in the West Regional semifinals next Saturday. And it's hard for me to say this, but the number 6 women's gymnastics team season is over. Thanks to some home cooking in favor of host Alabama, they finished 3rd at the NCAA Tuscaloosa Regional Final and barely missed out on advancing to their 2nd consecutive NCAA championships. There is no question that the Golden Bears had another absolutely tremendous season, posting a 32-5 overall record and a perfect 6-0 conference mark to win the regular season ACC conference title. Former Tell the Whole Damn World featured guest Maya Lazan took home ACC Gymnast of the Year honors, and co-head coaches Elizabeth Crandall Howell and Justin Howell were named co-coaches of the year. And the Bears won 9 of 11 ACC Gymnast of the Week awards. We now wait to see which individual Golden Bears will be selected to the NCAA Championships on April 17th in Fort Worth, Texas. The Cal softball team beat Nevada 8-3 at home to put an end to a 3-game skid. They're now 26-10 overall, 6-6 in the ACC. And the baseball team fought down to the wire on Sunday, but ultimately was swept at home by number 6, Clemson. That's the first time they've been swept in a 3-game series in almost an entire calendar year. They're now 16-15 overall, 6-9 in the ACC. Speaking of sweeps, the number 2 Cal men's rowing team swept all 13 dual races at the Cal Stanford Invitational at Redwood Shores. And the number 9 beach volleyball team celebrated senior day in style, winning every set in 5-0 victories over Pacific and San Francisco. They're now 18-6 this season. The number 10 Cal men's tennis team gave its seniors some great memories in their final regular season appearances at Hellman Tennis Complex, beating both number 15 Duke and North Carolina to improve to 18-2, 10-2 in the ACC. They've now won 11 straight matches. Meanwhile, the number 16 women's tennis team had a tough assignment and lost to number 4 Duke and number 7 North Carolina in its final regular season matches at home. They're now 11-6 overall, 8-2 in the ACC. The number 5 Cal women's water polo team beat number 14 Arizona State 18-14 at home. The Golden Bears are now 16-3 overall, 3-2 in the MPSF. And finally, Mikolas Alekna was the headliner at the Brutus Hamilton Invitational. The world record holder in the discus returned to Edwards Stadium and had a throw of 70.09 meters. That throw, not surprisingly, shattered the ACC conference discus record by more than 3 meters and made him the new 2025 world leader. Up next, we welcome Leslie Mitchell to the show for our weekly Cal history lesson. This week, we're going to learn about one of the greatest actors of all time. Gregory Peck came to Cal in 1936, rode under legendary crew coach Kai Ebright, and won an Oscar for Best Actor. We just passed his birthday on April 5th.
This week in Cal history.
As most of you know, Leslie Mitchell is a third-generation Cal alum and lifelong Golden Bear fan who does an incredible job writing articles and shining a light on the students, faculty, and alums from our great university who have gone on to do amazing things in the world. You can find a link to her website at the bottom of our website, and you can follow her on X or Twitter under the name Cal Bears History. She has nearly 10,000 followers there. We love having Leslie as part of the show and learning more about these wonderful people from the past associated with our university. Today, we're going to learn more about Eldred Gregory Peck, one of the greatest actors of all time and a former Golden Bear. Welcome again to the show, Leslie.
Well, thank you so much, Reza. I appreciate your kind words as always. Gregory Peck is, what can you say? One of the greatest actors, a wonderful person, just a kind, generous, caring human being. And he loved Cal. He really, really loved Cal. So what else can you ask for in a person?
Absolutely. That sounds like pretty good qualifications to be on the show. Would have loved to have interviewed him for the show.
Yes, sadly, he's no longer with us. But I'd like to start off with, just to get it off on the right foot, my all-time favorite quote from Gregory Peck. He said, he started off, by the way, at what was then San Diego State Teachers College and is now San Diego State. And after 1 year, he transferred to Cal. And so he was at Cal for 3 years. And the quote is, "My 3 years at Cal were 3 of the best years of my life. They caused me to grow up and to become a human being." And I think, wow, you can't get a much better celebrity endorsement than that.
Right. You would think they should put that right on the front
on the
page of the website.
That we should have.
That's right.
So the reason he started out at San Diego was because he grew up in La Jolla, which is right down there near San Diego. And he transferred to Berkeley because he decided he wanted to be a doctor. But like so many of us who went to Cal, he got into all of those math and chemistry courses and said, "Oh no, this is too much." And I can totally, I was a history major, so I can totally relate. And he really got into the English and the poetry and the literature, and he switched over and became an English major. And while he was being an English major, he got to know a professor who was also in charge of the drama club. There wasn't actually a theater department or anything at that time, but there was a student-led drama club. And the professor asked him to be in a play, mostly because he was tall. He said, "We only have short men in the drama club. We need a tall guy for this character. I'd like you to be in this play. And he said, well, okay. And he said, once he got on that stage, he said, I was bitten by the bug, and I instantly knew that this is what I had to do with my life.
Well, and we're talking about, he entered Cal in 1936.
Correct.
Right? Is that right? And yeah, I was tickled by reading that he was like chased down by this director across campus because he was, I guess, 6'2" or 6'3", and had this wonderful voice, and it just really translated very well, where he just happened to have this great presence on stage. But I think I came across
the great presence. I don't know that he started out that way.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that the Daily Cal actually, I guess, had some critique of one of his earliest acting performances, and had something pretty derogatory to say, like that he basically kind of tanked the whole production because he just wasn't very, comfortable up there, and looked stiff, and wasn't, he just was very inexperienced as an actor. It was
bad. Yeah. He says that himself in discussing his early years. He said, I was very awkward. I had no training. He'd never had any training in theater. He had no idea what he was doing. And there's a great quote from his own mother, who lived in San Francisco. She was interviewed by the Chronicle, I think, in the 1990s. And she said, I didn't think he was going to be successful. I didn't think there was anything special about him at all.
Right. Yeah, there really wasn't anything remarkable about him. That's pretty good.
I assume she was just referring to his performance in those original plays in Berkeley, which apparently she attended.
Like, thanks, Mom. Thanks for the vote of confidence there. But I think I also read something about how he really didn't begin to feel comfortable acting until some director made him understand that really acting is all about a game of make-believe. And once that really settled in with him, everything started, at least at that point, to become more comfortable for him with regard to acting.
Yes, that was in his New York days after he left Cal.
Right.
Meanwhile, the other thing that's so awesome about Gregory Peck during his time at Cal was that he was on the rowing team, and was really, really big part of his life was the rowing team. He has said that it really shaped his character. There's this great quote where he talked about his experience rowing, and he said, quote, "It's the most grueling sport known in college. It's a sport where strong men faint as they go over the finish line because they have spent every last ounce of their strength and consciousness. Your chest feels like cement. Your legs feel like rubber. Your mind is numb. Your back feels broken, but you learn never to give up." And that has to have some effect on a man's character.
I would have to think so. My goodness. Yeah.
And by the way, he never made the varsity team. He only made it to junior varsity because he was not tall enough and bulky enough to make varsity.
And we're talking about the glory years of Cal Crew, right? I mean, these were the years of going and getting the Olympic golds and everything, right?
Was the coach, and he's the one that took Cal to 3 gold medals when it was the entire Cal Crew team that represented the United States in the Olympics. So those were the big days. So it was hard to make the varsity on a team that's going to the Olympics.
I'd say, I mean, he might have been pretty darn good. He just not world champion class, but yeah.
There's a great story too that I believe it was in 1938. The team was going back to Poughkeepsie, New York, which is where they had the national championships for crew in those days. And he wasn't going because he was a JV rower. But he sneaked aboard the train and hid in the baggage carrier coach with one of his buddies. And they were like out in Utah or somewhere when the Coach Everett noticed that they were there. And he told him, "I should kick you off the train and make you figure out your own way back to Berkeley." But he let him stay on the train. And they went all the way to New York City, and he got off in New York City. And that was the first time he got to see a Broadway play. And that's the main reason that he sneaked on the train.
Wow.
Yeah. And they let him be a gopher during the championships. So it all worked out. And he eventually ended up in New York in 1939 after he finished at Cal. And because he wanted to be an actor, and that he went there to get his training.
Right. Well, I was telling my wife this the other day. If you had a Mount Rushmore of the greatest actors of all time, you know, he would likely be on that monument. I mean, he's that big. And I was checking out his website, and there were some remarkable, just incredible quotes from other fellow actors and prominent people about him. I'm just going to read a couple of them just to kind of put some things into context. And, you know, primarily, most of his fame, of course, is his portrayal of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, of course, which won the Academy Award, and he won the Oscar for Best Male Actor or Best Actor in that performance. But yeah, this is from Tom Hanks. By the nature of the films he chose to make, you can learn how to be a better man. Laura Dern, his humanity encourages us to feel what we long for in a father, in our social system, in our country, and within each other. Thought that was pretty good. And he spoke for those who were not being heard. He spoke for them often, and often he made a difference. From Harry Belafonte. And then from Harper Lee, the woman herself who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch gave Gregory Peck an opportunity to play himself.
It's interesting that he was very involved personally in the civil rights movement.
Right.
Right. And he marched with Martin Luther King. He was at the March in Washington. He did a lot of fundraising, a lot of public speaking to raise awareness. He raised a lot of money. He was a very devoted supporter of the civil rights movement. And then in later years, in the 1990s, he became a big supporter of the gay rights movement.
Sure.
So yeah, he's a great guy,
right?
In many ways.
Absolutely. Well, and then more just on his portrayal of Atticus Finch, he had this himself to say about it. He said, "I put everything I had into it, all my feelings and everything I've learned in 46 years of living about family life and fathers and children, and my feelings about racial justice and inequality and opportunity." Yeah, I mean, it was a role that was just meant for him. And I guess he even said of himself that in his obituary or on his tombstone, it may simply say, "Won the Academy Award for Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird." And that would be all you would have to say. He would be very happy if that alone was all that was said about him. So,
and in fact, as I was telling you just before we started, at his funeral in 2003, the eulogy was given by Brock Peters, who was the actor who played the black man who had been unfairly accused of rape that he was defending in To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's very touching to me that he had that kind of a relationship, that he wanted to give the eulogy.
Right.
Yeah, he was in a lot of other great movies. He got 5 Oscar nominations. He won, as you said, for To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. He was nominated for Best Actor for his second movie in 1944. So it seems like he got over, between when he left Cal in 1939 and 1944, when he's getting nominated for Best Actor, he developed his skills pretty quickly.
Right. No question about that. Yeah, you seem to be a real natural and just picked it up really quickly. No question about that.
We could go through all of his films, but, this isn't really the film podcast. But one of my favorites is Roman Holiday with Audrey Hepburn, which was her first movie. And she said he was so kind to her and so helpful to her. And they became lifelong friends as well. He later became the president of the Motion Picture Academy from 1967 to 1970. And he really was the one that came in and said, it's all run by these old white guys that are like in their 70s and 80s. We need to get some young blood in here. We need to get some diversity in here. And he really made big changes in the Academy, which kind of opened the door for a more modern cinema in the late 60s and 70s. And then eventually he was given the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, which is the award that they give at the Oscars occasionally to someone who has been especially deserving because of their charitable work or other kinds of humanitarian work.
Right. Well, talking
so
about...
he's very well regarded.
Yeah, I mean, talking about some of the other awards and honors that he received. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Lyndon B. Johnson. He received the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, the Kennedy Center Honors in 1991, the National Medal of Arts. So yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, and one thing I thought was particularly cool too was that the AFI, American Film Institute, ranked his portrayal of Atticus Finch the #1 movie hero in American film history. back in 2003. I thought that's pretty cool.
That's impressive. Yes. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And he was on a postage stamp too, U.S. postage stamp.
I did not know that. Wow. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
And he kept his connections up with Cal, which is another thing you got to love about the guy. He came in 1968 when Zellerbach Hall opened, and he was the master of ceremonies for for 4 straight days of concerts that they had to open Zellerbach with, I forget who it was.
Igor Stravinsky?
It was Igor Stravinsky, and he was conducting the Cal Orchestra and the Cal choral groups, which I think is just incredible. And then in 1996, he came back to Berkeley with his one-man conversation with Gregory Peck, which he did again at Zellerbach. And yeah, by the way, when he was at Cal, the only place they had to do plays was at Wheeler Hall. And that's why, and until Zellerbach was open, that was it. And that is not an ideal place to do plays. It's not, it's an auditorium. It's not a theater.
That's right.
But so he was happy. That's one of the reasons he was happy to help open Zellerbach. But he came back and did his conversations with Gregory Peck, and he reunited with his remaining Cal crew teammates, and just apparently had a great time. When he stepped up on stage, the first thing he said is, "It's great to be back home."
That's awesome.
Apparently, and the Cal Performances, whoever was the head of Cal Performances at that time, picked him up from the airport and drove him in. She said the whole time he was with his wife, and he was saying, "Oh, look, that's the sorority where I washed dishes in exchange for meals when I was a kid. Look, there's Sather Gate. Look, there's this. There's where I live. And she said he was just so excited to point out everything that he had done and every place he had been when he was at Cal.
That's awesome. And then, to hear about some of the people who got to meet him, just the fans, and he was always just so gracious with his time and not pretentious at all. So wonderfully charismatic, and just really enjoyed being around people and sharing all of his stories.
Yes, he was definitely one of the all-time great Golden Bears.
That's right. Thank you again so much, Leslie. That was really wonderful to learn more about Gregory Peck, and thank you so much for making the time today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, and go Bears.
Go Bears! One more quick note about Gregory Peck that I'm sure Leslie and all our other lawyer friends out there will appreciate. He once said that many people would come up to him and tell him that they went into law and decided to become a lawyer because of his portrayal of Atticus Finch. And he would say back to them, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Up next, my co-host and Cal Hall of Famer Ahmad Anderson will join me. And together we will welcome Dave Durden, the head coach of Cal's swimming and diving program, to the show as our featured guest. I'm not sure if I even know where to begin when introducing our featured guest this week. Dave Durden is an almost mythical figure in the world of swimming and diving. He just wrapped up his 18th season as the head coach of the men's swimming and diving program at Cal. And under his leadership, the Golden Bear men have reached almost unimaginable heights. Each and every year over the past 15 years, Cal has finished in the top 2 in the nation in swimming and diving, claiming 6 team championships and finishing as runner-up on 9 other occasions. He's a 7-time NCAA National Coach of the Year and a 12-time Conference Coach of the Year. And, oh, by the way, he was the head coach of the 2020 U.S. Olympic team. And on top of all of that, as if he didn't already have enough on his plate, he also happens to be the head coach of Cal's top 10 ranked women's swimming and diving team. They just finished number 8 in the nation at the 2025 NCAA Championships. He has graciously made some time to talk with us early in the morning over there on his very well-deserved vacation. Welcome to the show, Coach. And what time is it over there in Hawaii right now?
Yeah, it's a little bit after 6, but for a swim coach, that's not early. It's not early at all.
Yeah. No, we're gonna get to that, because it certainly sounds like if you're a top swimmer, you have to be prepared to wake up pretty early in the morning with all the training that's involved. First off, what's it like to coach both the men's and women's swimming and diving teams? How do you find time for all that?
Well, one, and this is probably the most important thing, is I have a great staff. Our assistant coaches are top notch, and I couldn't do, or really our athletes couldn't do, or both teams couldn't have the success that they're having without having a great staff around them. That includes our assistant coaches, our strength coach, our trainers. And a lot of these coaches and staff folks have been with me now for a good period of time. Our assistant coaches now coming up into their third year, but from our trainers and strength coaches, you're looking at 8, 9, 10 years of relationships, which is very, very valuable for me as a coach, where they kind of know what I'm thinking before I do it. And when you have a staff that can operate that way, it just makes the path so much smoother. And I think the difference between not necessarily I was looking for an added challenge, but I just felt that our women's team could be better. And I looked at that group across the pool. I thought that they had a lot of the same qualities, a lot of the same benefits as our men's program. And it was just going to be a matter of time before we started to rise up the ranks. And I think this group of women over the last 3 years really stabilized our program and then helped recruit the future of our program. They did a phenomenal job of recruiting athletes that were, in some cases, higher level, better athletes than themselves. Really helping our incoming freshmen or high school juniors, high school seniors really see the value of the Cal experience. And I'm so fortunate to have had and to have worked with this group over the last 3 years. We have a pretty big group of seniors that are graduating. We have a really good group of freshmen that are coming in behind, but I'm very fortunate to have worked with this group of seniors over the last 3 years.
Well, Coach, I'll tell you, we got you up early in the morning. You talk about being a coach for both men and women. The only thing in my football days, in all my athletic days, I could even remember is double days. And I'm so glad those days are gone by. So
Sure.
really want to know what that's like for you to do that kind of double day every day.
Right.
But in addition to that, what does the training look like as it relates to working out schedules, the type of competition there is, and then the mindset that one has to have for that as a coach?
Yeah, those are great questions because you never stop being a world-class athlete. I mean, you wake up and you live it, and you go to bed and you live it. You have to be in bed at a specific time. You have to be up at a specific time. You have to put the right fuel in your body at specific times through the course of the day. So being an athlete, just and a world class athlete at that, just doesn't happen in the 2 hours that they're at practice in the morning and in the afternoon. But for our group, it's and that's tough. It's tough being an 18 to 22-year-old with a lot of the entertainment pieces that college lifestyle affords to
Yes.
be able to sacrifice a little bit of that, find a little bit of balance in it, right? You can't go all in and be so tunnel vision that you go through your Cal experience and not really appreciate the time and being in Berkeley, because Berkeley has so much to offer. The Bay Area has so much to offer, and I want our athletes to go through their time from 18 to 22 and be able to, as their parents come, as family comes to visit them on graduation, to be, okay, here's my favorite place to have breakfast. Here's my favorite place to have coffee. Here's a great place that we went to in San Francisco. Here's a cool trail that we hiked around the Bay Area. So I want them to experience everything in the area that they live for 4 years. So it's a good balance and challenge. But I think when the athletes come to Cal to swim, and for that matter, when they come to dive, we have a phenomenal diving coach in Paylin. When they come to swim or dive, they have the expectation, or they look at me as a coach and say, Dave, this is where I want to go as an athlete. These are my goals. These are my aspirations. And those goals and aspirations are usually are consistent or in alignment with making an Olympic team, making a world championship team, being an NCAA finalist, being an NCAA All-American. And so when they ask me to do that, I look at them and say, okay, this is what this looks like over your 4 years, over your 1 year, over your 1 week, over your 1 day, and just kind of drill it back down to this is our lifestyle that we have to have. And I think for a lot of our athletes, they know that walking in the door. And so we're in alignment. There is no inconsistency with it. It's not like this is different than what I thought it was going to be. It's exactly what they want it to be.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where, that's the consistency between our men and women as we look at developing from 18 to 22-year-olds, as we look at developing them into world-class athletes. There's a level of consistency that we have across the board with. And when you have an environment like that, I mean, it makes it easy to get up and do what you do. So our double days are typically 6:30, hitting the water in the morning till 8:15. They go to class all day. We're back in the weight room at 1 o'clock. Then we hit the water again at 2:15, and we're done about 3:30. So that's a pretty full day for them. And again, it doesn't stop there. Between how they take care of their bodies, how they're fueling their bodies, they're always conscious of what they're doing as they go through the course of the day. And I tell them that's what makes makes you men and women very desirable employees to an employer,
Sure.
because you know how to work. You know how to work. You know how to do it. You're going to find yourself out there in the real world where you're up and moving and going and doing, at least a good amount of work before the general work population is up and going.
Look, you hit some real key spots from the standpoint of what it means to be a coach and hearing your philosophy. And I'm an HR guy, and I've been a coach at semi-pro football. And so a lot of those attributes and characteristics come together just naturally for me. And yet, as we sit in the stands, and whether it's at our kids' games or games that we've been to now as alumni, whatever the sport is, there are always those coaches sitting next to you who are not coaches and think they have the inside stuff, or the parents that are wandering around, hovering when their child is not being the person that starts. When did you say to yourself, I want to coach? And
Yeah.
then it hit you, I'm not bad at this. Honey, I'm pretty good at doing this. And
Yeah.
and and how did it come together eventually for you to get to Cal and be that coach? Because it takes a special kind of person and a special kind of coach to be at Cal.
Yeah. I mean, that's so well said. And I'm smiling because it's just thinking about the evolution, the origin story of how I got into coaching, thinking about the time where I, sort of, leapt into the pool, no pun intended, leapt into the pool and said, okay, I'm going to do this. But I think about my own college experience, and not that it wasn't bad. I went to University of California, Irvine, swam at UC Irvine. They no longer have a swimming program. And as I went through my time there, and I graduated from Irvine with my degree in electrical engineering, fully focused on this is what I'm going to do. This is my career path. This is going to be my profession. And as I left UC Irvine, I was a bit frustrated with the state of the swimming program. I thought it could be better than what it was. And that little seed, or I guess that idea just ate at me. And it was like, I know this can be better. I know this can be better. I know this can be better. And I think there's people that sit there on the sidelines and throw stones and say, well, this can be better, and complain about it and yell about it. And then there's the people that are going to go do something about it and do something about it in a positive way, not a destructive way. But it's like, okay, I'm going to get into coaching and help build this. I'm going to get into coaching and help. I'm not going to be destructive and try and tear this down. I'm going to try and help build this up. And so when I got into coaching, I was coaching at a small club team in Southern California, and I sat down with the head coach, who's actually has been one of my mentors. He was the head coach at USC for a long time. He's an assistant coach now, just in kind of living his best life out in Arizona. But he said, okay, you need some education behind what you're doing on the pool deck. It's one thing to stand up on the pool deck and give a set and coach an athlete and look at technique, but it's another thing to fully understand what you're giving the athlete is going to help them from a physiological level. It was like, okay, I get it, no problem. And so I applied to about 5 different graduate programs around the country. One of them I applied to was Auburn University. The head coach at the time was David Marsh. And knowing David, and David is now my assistant, so that's kind of come full circle. I went out to work for David at Auburn, and David is now full circle coming back to working here at Cal. But I sent an email out to David, knowing David as well as I know him. I'm surprised he read it, and I'm surprised he replied. But it's just one of those moments in time that's very, timing is everything. And he responded to my email, said, come out, take a look at Auburn. I applied to the a master's program in exercise science there. I was there for a year as a graduate assistant before I was hired full time by David to be an assistant coach. And when you go from being a graduate assistant coach where you're balancing a little bit of your academics with the coaching piece of it to being a full-time coach. I mean, a full-time coach is a full-time coach. It's about an 80-hour-a-week job. So I was probably about 9 hours short of my my master's degree in exercise science. But I was there for 5 years, so with the first year being a graduate assistant, and learned so much. During that time, we won 3 national titles on the men's side. We won 3 national titles on the women's side.
Wow.
And just had an education, not only in the classroom, but also on the pool deck. How to run a program, how to build it, how to operate as a coach. And it was tremendous. I went from there to Maryland for a couple of years as a head coach. And when you get out away from being an assistant coach to being a head coach in that first head coaching gig, you learn a lot. You learn a lot in a short amount of time. And I did. I tried to basically take what I was doing at Auburn and lay it on top of Maryland. You can't do it that way. And so when I started at Cal in 2007, I had a strong group of seniors, and I remember walking into a conference room and asking, hey guys, how do we want to do this? And it was great conversation kind of around the room. And they looked at me and said, Dave, we want to swim fast at NC2As. We want to swim fast in our national championships. At the time, Cal had sort of the reputation of swimming really fast at a Stanford dual meet, swimming a little bit slower at their Pac-12 championships, and a little bit slower at their NC2A championships. And it was pretty simple with that group of guys. If there's one thing I can do, guys, it's to get you to swim fast at NC2As. That's what I do. And so from there, the year before I got there, Cal was 8th, and then my first year we finished 4th with that group of seniors. We finished 4th the next year, and then the year after that, my 3rd year, we started that string of getting 1st or 2nd place finishes by finishing 2nd at the 2010 NC2A Championships. So it's been a good little run. Hopefully that wasn't too long and too rambling, but it certainly brought me to Cal and helped me with the experience of being at Cal. And I will say, in that sort of time when I was at Auburn, my whole goal getting into college coaching was to go back and help UC Irvine. And I had that opportunity to go back and be the head coach about 2 to 3 years into Auburn. But during that time, I realized that, okay, I can coach and help high level athletes. And not that the athletes at UC Irvine weren't, but it's a different echelon. And I was like, okay, this is where I feel comfortable. This is what this is my calling. This is what I can do. And so, yeah, exactly. And so, by the time UC Irvine came around, I was like, no, I know that I can help this sport at a higher level. And so that's why I stayed at Auburn and went to Maryland and subsequently at Cal, because I knew I could help high level athletes, and Cal had the pieces to be able to do that. And I enjoy working with high level athletes, but really intellectual athletes that want to know why I'm doing this. And when you're working with Cal athletes, you better bring your A game. You better be smart about what you do, because it's not that they're gonna question, but they're gonna ask questions, and those are 2 different things. And I appreciate that. I don't mind them asking questions. I don't like it when they question, but I want them to ask questions about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that's what you have at Cal. And that's what I appreciate as a coach, is just being on that pathway with them and being able to answer that why for them.
You touched on a lot of things there, Coach. And man, I didn't realize David Marsh is on your staff. I mean, that's a powerhouse kind of all-star staff you've got. I mean, the program that was at Auburn was just phenomenal. And then, you touched on this idea about the buy-in. I think that the student athletes at Cal, that they buy into it and they get it and they understand what's expected of them. And you provide that leadership and that structure. And then it creates this environment where you have that success that comes from putting the work in. But to get back to this 15-year run of ending in the top two, I mean, that's just unbelievable. I mean, I think there were some articles written on it where they talked about what other college sports have done anything like that. And it was these other like little known sports, well, maybe not little known, but just ones that aren't really considered like big time NCAA sports, like wrestling, I guess, at Iowa, and rifle range or something, and skiing at Denver or something, which is like,
Sure.
not a lot of schools are participating in
Sure.
that. So I mean, that's really just incredible. But what can you point to as the reason for the sustained consistency of your world-class swimming programs?
Yeah, it's a community. I mean, we have a really, really good community-based program, and that's probably not the best way to say it, but it's the best way for me to describe it if I had to put it into a sentence. I remember in 2009, my son was born, Jack, and we had gotten a gift basket from one of our alumni, Rich Viola, and Rich at the time had owned a company called Everyman Jack. It's a men's grooming, hair care, body wash, etc. And he had sent me a gift basket, just because of the irony of my son being named Jack and his company being named Everyman Jack. And from there, we went to a dinner with probably about 10 alumni, and they asked, "Hey, what do you need from us?" And the thing that I told them is very simple. Is this: I want our alumni support at NC2As. I want our athletes to be able to look up into the stands and know that, okay, I've got 17 guys on the sideline. That we can take 18 athletes up to 18 athletes at NC2As. So I got 17 guys on the sidelines, but I see this history of fans up in the stands. And from that moment on, from that dinner, I should say, to the 2010 championships, there was probably a core group of about 10 to 12 alumni that attended that meet. And for our competitions, it seats about 2,500 or so. And so usually teams will have about 40 to 50 fans, usually, friends and family, nothing that kind of has this draw that a football team will have, where you have actual fans in the stands. But from that moment in 2010, we went from about 10 alumni up in the stands to about 110 in the stands in 2011. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but when you're taking up capacity-wise, when you're taking up 30% of the capacity with fans at a swim meet, it means something. And so, as an example, this last NC2A championships up in Federal Way, we had close to about 130 to 150 fans that in a venue that sat probably about 1,200 or so. And so when you talk about being bear territory, I mean, it is bear territory. Our NC2A championships is bear territory. And there's so many programs over the years that try and replicate that, and to not a whole lot of success. And that support it's very analogous to not only the physical support that our athletes feel up in the stands, but it's the support of an athlete that walks into my office and says, "Hey, I have an interest in going to law school." And it's pretty easy for me to pick up the phone and call one of our alumni, Paul Clark, and say, "Paul, hey, I have this athlete that's interested in law school." And Paul went to Berkeley Law and works out on the East Coast at a law firm, and is giving of his time to sit down with this athlete and say, "Hey, this is what you want to do. This is how I'm going to help you do this. Or if an athlete wants to, hey, I have an interest in dentistry. It's like, okay, I'm going to call this person affiliated with our program and help you get started there. I want to be a doctor. I want to get into real estate. I want to get into business. We just have this community that goes beyond what is happening in the pool for our group, and it's our athletes feel that, and they know that, and they know when they're coming to Cal, it's not just I'm going to swim fast, but I'm going to have this group of, it's more than 100, but I'm going to have this group that feels like 1,000 people that have my back, that are going to help me, that I can reach out, pick up the phone and have a call, and somebody's going to help me in this next phase of my life. They may help me athletically. One of my more favorite moments as a coach, and sometimes your favorite moments happen in situations that aren't exactly athletic accomplishments, but it's just something that sticks with you because you remember it so well. We had a young man at the Olympic trials, this past Olympic trials in 2024, finished third in the 100 fly, which means that he was one spot away from making the U.S. Olympic team, and finished third by 4/100ths of a second. And that's never a fun feeling to have. It's never a fun position to be in. But one of our alum, Seth Stubblefield, was in actually almost the exact same spot. Finished third at the Olympic trials in the 100 fly in 2016, so 8 years before. Now, Seth, who did that in 2016, and Dare, who did that in 2024, they've never met each other. They've never communicated. They're 8 years apart from school. Even though Seth has come back to campus or come back to the stands, they just haven't spent a whole lot of time in conversation. And that night in 2024, when Dare finished third, Seth sent me a text and said, "Hey, can I get Dare's number? I want to reach out to him." And sure, so I passed that along to Seth, and I have no idea what their text conversation was about, but I know that a guy that never swam with one of our current swimmers, it was watching and supporting, and just felt the pain of missing the Olympic team by that much, and
Yeah.
took the time to say, "Hey, can I get his number? Because I want to reach out to him." I had this shared experience with him. I had the shared experience of going through Cal. I had the shared experience of what it's like to be a part of this program. I had the shared experience of missing it by that much. And I just want to reach out to him and say, it's going to be okay. And it is going to be okay. Maybe not in the moment, but Seth has a wonderful family, as a doctor, is thriving. But it's just like in that moment, it's like, hey, I want to support one of our fellow Bears in this time. And those, to me, that doesn't happen if you don't have this community-based program, that you have these alumni that have gone through this, that are looking out for each other each and every step of the way. Now, whether that's in the classroom, in the pool, in the professional life, it's just it's something that's phenomenal. It's happened. It's continued to grow, and I can point to the moment where that really came to fruition, and it was all because of one alumni in Rich Viola that really sort of rallied our group, and has continued to do that over the last 15, 18 years.
That's a drop the mic moment, baby. That's Bear territory.
Yeah, I mean, Bear territory stretches far and wide. I mean, that's a great story. That support that comes from people who've gone on from the university to do other things in life, that they're all still supporting and are huge fans. And that's great that you help foster and keep that going. Speaking of the 2025 NCAA Championships this year up there in Federal Way, what was going through your mind when the men's team shattered the NCAA record in the 800-yard freestyle relay on the first day of the NCAA Championships? I mean, it seemed like that was insanity, right?
Yeah, it was. It was special. Now we won that relay last year, and I think and that's a relay that we hadn't won in a long time. It's funny as you go through. I'm getting to the spot where I get to be a little bit more of the old coach. As I was kind of coming up through, and as we were having success and winning national titles in 2011, 2012, I was a young coach, and I don't think I'm the old coach yet. I'm the middle-aged coach. I'm right in the middle somewhere. But we we were always, at least in recruiting, recruiting is wonderful, but there is always a negativity that happens in recruiting when you start to rise up, or you're at a level where people just want to kind of bring you back down rather than try and elevate themselves. It's easier to bring you back down, pull you back down. And so we had always, or at least early on in my career, it was they're a sprint program. They're not, they can't do anything more than the 50 and the 100, blah, blah, blah. So to go out and win that relay last year was really cool, because I think we had the collection of athletes to do that, and we probably could have put a couple of different people in that relay and had the same result. And I think the same thing this year. We had about 5 or 6 guys that we were looking at that could have impacted that relay at the highest level. And I think the most nervous thing for me is just it's an early race, so getting out of the gates and just sort of handling some of the jitters. And we just had a wonderful senior, Jack Alexi, Olympian, who led off the 400 free relay for Team USA at the Olympic Games. So knowing that he could do that at the Olympic Games and lead off our 800 free relay at our collegiate championships, like, okay, we've got that in the bag. That's good. And especially with that relay, because it's a little bit longer, you just want to make sure that your athletes are swimming the first probably quarter of that, the first half of that, well, smartly, not trying to overdo it. And we had just a strong senior group. But the moment for me that got a little bit scary was our last swimmer, Lucas Henbo. And Lucas is a phenomenal individual, phenomenal athlete. And as you're looking at the coach, as you're watching the race, generally you're watching the swimmer finish into the wall. You want to make sure that relay exchange is safe, is good. And we've watched thousands of them, so you can eyeball it and know, like, okay, that was good, that's fine. So you're watching that. You're also just kind of looking up at the scoreboard, which is in kind of two different spots, looking at the scoreboard just to see splits, just to kind of see what the differential is between us and at the time it was Texas, or 1 and 2 in that relay. And so as I looked at Destin, who was our third swimmer coming in, watched him touch, looked up at the scoreboard. And by the time I got back to looking at Lucas and where he was in that first lap, just really off his dive, we went from having a half a body length lead to Lucas coming up behind. And I didn't know what the heck happened to him. I don't know. And subsequently he swam a smart race. We've had this happen before. He kind of came up, swam his race, got his hand on the wall, did a great job. But as we looked and as he came over after his race, his hands just totally slipped and separated on the dive and went straight down, almost to the bottom. I mean, he had to come up, do a breaststroke kick to get up and start swimming fast. And so it's something that I've never seen before in a relay. I've seen it before, unfortunately, off the start, but I've never seen it before in a relay. Wow. And it nearly gave me a little bit of a heart attack, because, and not to say that we could have gone faster. Listen, we would have gone faster. When you start from a dead stop in the water to get up and go, like, we would have gone even faster, which is crazy to think about. But I'm just happy that group was able to get under that 6-minute barrier. I was happy for Lucas to be able to recover well, because he would have been beating himself up had that gone the other way. And it was that moment of, okay, when they touched the wall, it was kind of ticking boxes. It's like, okay, tick, 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 tick. It wasn't a pretty race, but we got the job done. And listen, I talk about this with our athletes at Cal all the time. It's like, listen, it's not pretty, but we're going to get it done. And it's and that's exactly that relay was a microcosm for kind of how we operate. It wasn't pretty, but we got the job done.
Yeah. I mean, man, first team to go under 6 minutes in NCAA history, right? I mean, that's
incredible.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was good. And again, it every once in a while you get a collection of athletes that can do that, and we just had the right group, which was pretty special.
But that is an amazing story, and I'm sure that's one of many highlights, right, that you've experienced as a coach, as an athlete yourself. But I'm always fired up for the summer. I learned as a kid how to swim. I'm not the shark I was in at the YMCA. I got little shark pads, and it was like porpoise, dolphin, shark, and I was a shark. Now I'm like that guy that just wants to sit by the edge of the water and put my feet in. So those days have changed. But what I'm really excited about and waiting to hear about your experience as the head coach in 2020 of the U.S. Olympic team in Tokyo. And that time was just so crazy in the world.
Yeah.
And yet that gave me and many people in various countries was a ray of sunshine and was a rainbow, if you will, that greater days and better days were ahead. Share with us what it was like to go through that experience, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly bittersweet. You know, I think the sweet part of it is kind of, being it's such an honor to be the head coach of the U.S. Olympic swim team. You have a sense of pride with that. It does, and we are, and we carry that pride forward that we are the best swimming program in the world. And at times that sort of label gets challenged, but we do feel that sense of pride and source of pride. And I think the tough part about the 2020 Tokyo Games, which happened in 2021, was just not having fans in the stands. And when you experience it on the other side of it, so in 2016 in Rio and 2024 in Paris, and you just feel the energy from the stands come down to the pool, or even in 2012 in London, you just feel that energy come down to the pool deck. It was tough for the athletes not to feel that.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is if we didn't have it, you think about all the hard work that those athletes went through for 4 years and then to extend it for 5 years. And to not have an Olympic Games to wait a whole nother cycle till 2024. So I'm so happy that the IOC, that the organizing committee of Tokyo was able to put together an environment for these athletes to compete in an Olympic environment, to compete for Olympic gold, to compete for an Olympic podium spot. I think the challenge for a coach, as Greg Meehan, who is my assistant at Cal early on, who's now the head Stanford women's coach, he shared the responsibility of being the head women's coach for that Olympic team. As Greg and I worked together from the fall of 2018 through the spring of 2020, as we were planning for the Olympic Games, as we were planning for the logistics, our training camp, everything was set, was looking good, and then it scraps. I mean, I felt like we planned for 2 Olympic Games in that cycle because we had to restart. Yep, we had to restart, redo it, change it up, and that was a challenge. And it was hard. It was hard to kind of go through and say, okay, this is your framework that you can work on to do everything that you need to do. This is how you're going to head into it, and then to have that target from 2020 to 2021 move consistently and move all the way up until literally we got into Tokyo, just trying to figure that out. We found out probably about 2 to 3 days before we went into the Olympic Village that it was just going to be Greg and myself as head coaches in the Olympic Village with our team, and our assistant coaches were going to be outside in a hotel. And part of that, part of the having a staff and a large staff on an Olympic team is communication. And when you have 2 of you stay in someplace and 8, 9 of you stay in somewhere else, it was hard to have kind of consistency and communication as you're moving through, probably the most stressful competition for athletes. And so it had its challenges. I mean, it's something that I always think about. Would I want to do it again? Having had that experience, and I much prefer being an assistant coach, and not because you're just responsible for your athletes and responsible for some, so some of the cultural pieces. If asked by the head coaches, okay, how can I help this culture be better? But being a head coach during that time had its challenges, and you don't know how the product is being presented on the other side back home. So you're just, for you, it's just a swim meet, and you're just kind of dialed into that swim meet. You're just kind of dialed into what's going on. And then only after the fact do you go back and see how NBC sort of put that package together for the races. But it was a wonderful experience, a tremendous honor, tremendous growth, having to work through really kind of plan for two Olympic Games. I do remember as I came back from Tokyo, every morning we had to wake up and again, every country or every situation had to do its own little COVID test piece, but every morning we had a little test tube that we had to get take our spit, saliva, and kind of fill it up to a certain marker, and that went off to get tested to see if anyone on our coaching staff, team, athletes had COVID, et cetera. It was a little different from the Olympic experiences that I've had in the past, where it is like going to the dining hall and seeing different athletes and talking to them and having a conversation and communicate. It felt like an Olympic Games, and at the same time, it didn't feel like an Olympic Games. So I would love to have had it happen without COVID, and I think everyone would have, because I think it would have been that much more special. It would have looked a little different, and I think everyone's experience coming off of it, especially going into Paris, would have been a little more healthy. It was a huge challenge, not only because of the pandemic going on, but I think just some of the more emotional mental health challenges that come from coming off of that Olympic Games and having to start and reset heading into 2024, which was a little more of a condensed time frame.
So this year, the men were the first team to win an ACC championship in any sport at Cal. What are your thoughts on the transition to the ACC?
Yeah, I mean, every sport's a little different. Our regular season or even our postseason is going to look a little bit different than basketball and football and baseball, volleyball, soccer, the softball, that are going to have to travel for their regular season competition. We're more in alignment with golf and tennis, where you can develop your own schedule, which we try to do very regionally. So a lot of our regular season looks very similar to our Pac-12 regular season. We're swimming USC, we're swimming Arizona State, we're swimming UCLA, we're swimming Stanford, in a very kind of regional context. And then when it's time to go to our conference championship, that's where our travel happens. So our conference championship was in Greensboro, North Carolina. And typically for us, our NCAA championships, we're traveling back east in Atlanta or North Carolina or in Indianapolis. So we're used to that travel for an NCAA championship. So we're just not used to it for a conference championship. And irony would have it that we traveled 5 hours to North Carolina for our conference championship, and we traveled 2 hours up to Seattle for our NCAA championship. So kind of the roles were reversed a little bit. But I think again, it's just our athletes know how to take care of themselves when they travel. It's only a big deal if you make it a big deal for us in terms of the travel back east. And I think for us, it was 3 more hours of just sitting on a plane. And so we could handle that. And when we got into Charlotte, and it's about an hour and a half from Greensboro, we sort of managed our time. We sort of stayed in the Charlotte area and then drove into Greensboro a little bit later. But once we got into the flow and the rhythm of the meet, it's a swim meet. And it's a little more crowded for us than what we would normally experience in a Pac-12 championship, because our Pac-12 championship was split by gender, and our ACC championships were both men and women together. So it was, and that has some positives to it. It was more energy up in the stands, more energy in the building, certainly more energy and movement on the pool deck, and I think our athletes fed off of that. Kind of a typical conference meet for us for both men and women. It took us a little while to get going, but once we got going, we got that momentum moving through the meet. And it was great. It was fun for us to see some new faces, different competition that we would normally see at a championship meet, but to see it at the conference level. And it was such a benefit for us. Probably a bigger difference is that ACC trophy is a lot heavier than the Pac-12 trophy. So, just when you get that thing, it's like, oh my God, yeah, this has got some weight to it. The Pac-12 trophy is nice, easy, can sit on my desk. This thing was like monstrous.
Huge.
So, and I guess,
Right.
yeah. So with all the schools in there, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit bigger trophy and it's a little bit heavier. But that was probably the bigger difference for our group. But we managed that just fine. It was good. It was a good meet for us.
Yeah, well, and it seems like that makes a lot more sense to kind of keep it regional, and then you travel back east. That's not so much of a burden, at least with all the travel and everything. So it seems like
Sure,
you guys have
sure.
got that figured out.
Well, one of the things we talk about, what makes Cal special, and you talked about community and what excites from the day they come from high school, having that kind of conversation with them. Uh, I had the pleasure, Coach, which you probably didn't know of all my bear territory and stuff that I do. I was the academic advisor for student athletes at one time when they moved it out of the athletic department into actual letters and science. And I was there from 84 to 86 in that role. And I had the great pleasure of being the academic advisor for Mary T. Maher and for Matt Biondi. And so I just, when I see the Olympics, folks may not, folks who know me know that, but my excitement about swimming and diving is real. And I also was a student with Coach Nort and
Look at
Coach.
you dropping some names. I love it. I love this.
There you go. Coach Humphrey and Teresa Spicer was there back in the day.
Yeah.
Those are my folks, man. Those are the
Yeah.
teams that I grew up with and folks that I was very close to. So, what makes this a special place to you? As I drop those names that resonate with me, even back here at the age of 65. Tell me about what it is for you.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll answer that question with a quick story. We had a young man that transferred, and I'll leave some of the schools out, but he transferred from an Ivy League school, and he came in. His name is Chuck. Chuck Cadis was a great swimmer for us in 2014. Good
Yeah.
breaststroker for us. And Chuck, finished his career as a Cal Bear, and we were sitting at a table with some folks that were visiting campus, some recruits that were visiting campus, and one of the young men was looking at some Ivy League schools and said, Chuck, hey, what's the difference between Cal and the school that you went to, that you started your career at? And Chuck, sat back and thought about it for a second, and he said, well, the difference between Cal and the school I went to was they're both doing amazing things. They're both doing amazing things on campus, have incredible professors, incredible people. But the school I went to will tell you about it, and Cal won't. And I think that's the thing that's special about Cal is the people around campus are amazing. They're doing incredible things, and there's a level of and there's some good and bad with this in this day and college sports, and you're trying to promote yourself and promote your program at NIL, and you're just like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's just that's not Cal, and I think we can do it in a certain way, in a certain context, and say, hey, listen, we're doing some pretty special stuff here, and we have some amazing people that are doing amazing things. It's just not something that people run out and post on Instagram or go out and post on social media, and that I don't know, that speaks to me. I think everybody, as a coach, you sort of find your place, and you look at different programs and see what they're doing, and it's like, okay, well, we've got to do this because this program is, and I think there's comfort and confidence, very quietly, comfort and confidence in knowing that we're doing really amazing things here at Cal. And it's not, there's a way to promote that, but I think the athletes that choose to come to Cal are the ones that see the benefit for Cal for what it is. It's not the the smoke show and this, that, and everything. But I tell you what, we can do that on a college game day at 6 a.m. It can be pumping, and I was there and I loved it, and it was amazing, it was amazing to see you there, getting the crowd riled up,
Thank you, brother.
getting fired
Thank
up.
you, brother.
But that's the thing that that people don't understand about Cal. Everyone was nervous about, well, how's Cal going to show up? It's like, Cal will show up. You don't have to worry about that. Cal will show up. We are who we are. We don't have to go out there and tell people and just kind of ramble on about it. We're very, very quietly are doing the things. And when you stop and you look at it and you pull back, and even from a football perspective, when you pull back and you see the influence that we've had in the NFL it's amazing, and you don't really appreciate it until you have to point it out. And that to me is Cal. That's what makes Cal special. That's why I enjoy working there, is because I enjoy working with athletes that are like that. I'm not the hey, the dancing, the showy, this. It's just there's something about truly the Cal athlete that makes them extremely special, and to me that's what makes Cal Cal.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll just say this. One of the things I've learned, when you introduce somebody, you have people come in and say, hey, this person went to that college, did this, did that, did this. All you have to say is, I am from the University of California at Berkeley. Go Bears. And that says it all. And with that, Coach, we've come to the spot in the program where we say, and we ask you, as we've asked many of our guests, and you, I'm sure you've got a lot of them because you've shared them, but if you could, since you've been coaching, the athletes you had the opportunity to meet, the Olympics, all of it, the whole funky get down, what has been your Bear territory moment?
Yeah. There are a lot, right? And so it's hard to pick, but I feel I feel like the moment for me that was so special was in 2011. We had won our first title in 31 years, and our last relay, it didn't necessarily come down to that relay, but the meet wasn't over until we had to get our hand on the wall in that last relay. And we ended up winning that relay. We ended up anchoring that relay with Nathan Adrian, who's just a legendary Cal athlete, Cal swimmer. And I just remember that moment as he dove in. Again, we didn't have to win the relay. I think we had to finish sixth, but with the athletes that we had on that relay, we were going to win the relay. And so as our third swimmer came in, and as Nathan dove in and was swimming that last leg, and Nathan had won the 100 freestyle, no one was going to touch him. I just remember kind of taking in that entire moment. I mean, it was probably 20 seconds of just looking around, seeing our fans and alumni in the stand going absolutely crazy, our section on the deck going absolutely crazy, the guys behind the blocks going absolutely nuts. To win a national title and to touch first in that last relay is just the energy, the noise. We were up in Minnesota, the energy, the noise, this is Bear territory. And it was so cool. I mean, just to see to look back and see the videos from that time of different people, taking the videos on their phones and everything. I mean, it was just absolutely nuts. And that to me was a culmination of a lot of hard work from a lot of different folks. And it was just a special moment that sort of was a springboard for this run that we've been on for the last 14 years.
Those are some fantastic stories,
Good Coach. Here, man.
Yeah, you got us fired up.
On you. I'm feeling like I just got out the pool. Pat me down.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all good, Coach.
We got to get that shark back in the pool. Come on, we got to get that shark back in the pool. Come on, let's go.
Don't get me fired up. I'm gonna show up at one of your meets and be yelling Bear territory. You be, is that a mod up there?
Yeah, I love it.
My 6.5-year-old daughter was all excited to know that I was going to be talking to you this morning because she's just learning how to swim. And so I said, well, hey, it's an old, better person to learn how to swim.
There you go.
To talk to Coach Durden.
That's it.
I love it.
No, really, Coach, we really couldn't say thank you more or appreciate you more for making the time here, especially on your vacation, and much continued success and luck. And I mean, hey, you just have done such a phenomenal job. I'm just such a fan. I mean, you are literally the greatest swim coach of all time, and we just really appreciate you for making the time here today. We're so glad that you are a Golden Bear, and thank you again. And guess we'll end it the way we always end it and say, "Go Bears!"
Go
Go
Bears.
Bears.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate
Be
it.
well, be safe over there.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you. Will do.
So many great stories. Coach Durden is awesome. It's little wonder why our swimming and diving teams are so damn good year after year. That's going to do it for this week's episode. We appreciate all of you out there listening and watching. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please tell your friends. You can tell them to visit our website at tellthewholedamnworld.com. As I noted at the top of the show, we're updating our website each week, so you can just go there to stream the latest episode on YouTube. The more viewers and listeners we have, the easier it will be for other Cal fans to find us. You can also follow us on X, better known as Twitter, under Win4Cal. That's Win, the number 4, Cal. This podcast is entirely a labor of love, and we've never had any sponsorship. All of the time and energy that we put into it is just a reflection of how much we love our university. If you'd like to learn more about sponsoring a show, you can either email us at tellthewholedamnworld@gmail.com or click through the link at the bottom of our website to contact us. See you next week. This podcast is about celebrating all things Cal and the prominent people who are passionate about the University of California. Do you feel Cal is the center of the universe? Do you bleed blue and gold? We want you to tell the whole damn world about it. Go Bears!